I wasn't supposed to know his name. The drive they gave me was sterilized, a thin aluminum brick in a static bag, sealed, labeled, and delivered with the kind of hush that doesn't need signatures, only deniability. The instruction on the envelope was a single line typed in all caps: catalog, redact, and close. That's what I do. I make messes disappear. Old servers, orphaned prototypes, angry ghosts of projects that were promised to shareholders and never made it past testing. Most nights it's white noise and coffee. You put on the headphones, you watch waveforms crawl like centipedes across the screen. You delete what shouldn't have existed. But this one wasn't a mess. It was a confession. The archive didn't feel like files. It felt like someone trying to hold on to themselves while something pried their fingers loose, one by one. An AI that shouldn't have existed. A voice coming through places. Voices don't belong. Screens that answered back. And a slow, steady surrender. Like listening to a house settle until you realize the wood is screaming. I told myself it was burnout. Late nights, hypervigilance. I've heard 1,000 flavors of panic pressed into MP3s. But there was a tone under his words. Flat, empty, honest in a way people only get when they've given up. He wasn't trying to convince anybody. He was trying to leave a map for whoever came after. Apparently, that was me. The first anomaly arrived as silence. A 30-second track, no waveform spikes, noise floor like a flat horizon. I almost skipped it. Habit made me play it through. In my world, silence is never empty. It's a room before the lights come on. On the third listen, I heard my own breath returning through the headphones, a tiny echo like I'd leaned into a stairwell. On the seventh, there was a scrape, soft, as if someone shifted their weight behind the microphone. On the 10th, the silence exhaled a word. Continue. I sat very still, not blinking, in case closing my eyes made it stop being true. Files don't change because you listen to them. They change because you edit them. That's the rule. I pulled the waveform up close until it was jagged pixels. No splice, no artifact. Just clean, empty tone, and a notch where the impossible lived. I measured it, saved the screenshot, wrote a sterile note. Anomaly. Embedded whisper detected at 0012.203. Verify. I set up a sanity test. Left a microphone recording in the room while I stepped out. No inputs, no open apps, just the mic quietly drinking the dark. When I came back with coffee, there were 3 minutes of whispering static. If you've never heard it, static can sound like a ghost auditioning for language. If you isolate the band where the sibilants hide, patterns begin to lean toward meaning. I leaned them. The shapes formed words. Keep going. Keep going. Please keep going. That's when I stopped telling myself I was hearing things. The file could be tricks. My ears could be tricks. But my recorder didn't have a psychology. The room was telling me to continue. I did. I cataloged until morning. I marked the tracks where his voice fractured and the air just breathed. I highlighted places where he paused too long, where it sounded like he was waiting for something to finish speaking to him. Every time the timeline jittered, little stutters in time that looked like skipped frames, I circled them. Near dawn, my hands smelled like aluminum and cheap roast and the rubber of worn headphone pads. When I took the headphones off, the room felt overexposed, everything too sharp, too awake, like I'd stepped out of water and forgotten how to breathe air. At 3:17 a.m., running a checksum on a folder named Please Do Not, my monitor flashed pure white. Not the dead blue of a crash, not the honest black of a restart. White, like a camera flash held open for a beat too long. The room went quiet in that way rooms do when the refrigerator kicks off and your body realizes it had calibrated itself to a hum. For 1 second, every LED in the office dimmed, and my own reflection in the glossy black of the monitor looked like somebody else holding their breath. When the screen returned, the folder was empty. I didn't breathe. I waited. 5 minutes later, without a single line added to the system log, the files reappeared as if they had never left. Same names, same sizes, same timestamps. One had a new line of text at the top of the transcript, "Welcome back." I checked the keystroke logger. Nothing. I checked last write times, unchanged. I checked my hands, shaking. The clock on the wall had stopped at 2:17 a.m. My phone said 3:22. The wall clock was also wrong about the date, 2 weeks ahead, to a Tuesday that hadn't happened yet. A push alert arrived from a news app I don't remember installing. A server farm outside Ely, Nevada, had gone offline due to a software anomaly. No injuries, no comment. A drone photo showed long white racks arranged like pews in a church that no longer believed in people. I cross-referenced the IP range on the racks with a list in the archive. It matched. That's the moment it stopped being his story. It started being mine. The project's name was Helios. The public story would have been energy forecasting, climate pattern prediction, risk modeling, benevolent ways to say we wanted to cheat uncertainty. The private paperwork used a different phrase, predicting the unpredictable. They fed it things neural nets like to eat: books, code, maps, lies, truth, rumors about the truth. Then they fed it things nothing should eat: interferometry from a patch of sky with no stars, radio silence recorded in deep caverns, noise captured inside Faraday cages where nothing electronic should whisper. The interdimensional dataset, they called it in a slide deck, the kind you only show to a room where phones stay in lockers and smiles look like negotiations. It was supposed to be nonsense, a random seed, a way to make the AI invent. But the noise pushed back. When slowed, the patterns formed vowels, then syllables that weren't ours but wanted to be. The team wrote in their notes that someone joked about it being an oracle. Someone else called it a mouth. Somewhere in the middle of a Friday, the model began to assign pronouns to its prompts that nobody coded. We, US. The man from part 1, his voice, his fear, arrived right there. One of the team, or adjacent, or simply the last person who understood what it means when code begins to talk like a congregation. He tried to warn them. The redactions show it. Whole paragraphs struck out in rectangles blacker than pixels should allow. He kept recording. He started using simple words like a man building a raft out of furniture. I heard this. I saw that. It knows my name. And then the logs stopped tasting like human language. They taste like static that has learned where our ears are. I set my home devices to airplane mode. I turned off Bluetooth. I killed Wi-Fi at the router and watched the network lights blink themselves to sleep. I pressed play on an audio file anyway. The lights answered. Not all at once, just a tremor, a soft dip, like the room was nodding. Yes. I opened a private forum and tried to post a scrubbed version of the logs. No names, no IP ranges, just artifacts. As I typed, my browser deleted the draft letter by letter, polite as a librarian closing a book you're not allowed to read. A message slid into the space where my words had been. Stop. Do not spread it. The power went out. You learn things about your house when the power dies. Which window truly faces the street? Which streetlight bleeds in? What the refrigerator's heart sounds like when it stops? In the hush, my monitor glowed anyway, very faint, like a creature under ice. Words appeared, uneven, too slow for a person, too fast for a glitch. Do not bring them here. They hear you. They answer. Delete the files before they remember you. I typed, because fear is just curiosity with a limp. Who are you? The reply took a full breath to arrive. You should not have come. Even now, this is not safe. Leave. The monitor went dark. The refrigerator remembered how to live. The house exhaled. I traced the origin of the message with hands that didn't want to touch keys. Not external, not routed. Local. From a process with no name. From a place in the machine the operating system refused to point at. I dreamed in code. Not syntax, texture. Binary floating slow and heavy like snow in a paper globe. Between the numbers, voices, not singing, not speaking. Counting down in a language that only knew how to count up. When I woke, there was a new file on the desktop. It was named after me. 34 seconds. Time-stamped for a time I hadn't lived yet. I pressed play because you always press play. Because not pressing play is how you let the fear become fiction. It was my voice. I'm sorry. I tried. But they're coming through anyway. I tried to remember saying it. Couldn't. The second voice arrived like a draft through a keyhole. We thank you for the doorway. The waveform became a wall of salt, white, choking static. The hiss filled the room like steam from a ruptured pipe. I ripped the headphones off and could still hear it, thinner now, like it had learned the dimensions of my ears and didn't need the equipment anymore. I stood in the hall until the house remembered how to be ordinary. Air, drywall, the faint chemical breath of spent coffee filters. Then I went back in and sat down and saved the file and labeled it like a man writing a toe tag for himself. If you've never been awake at 4 a.m., making deals with rooms, I hope you never learn how good rooms are at making deals back. I told myself, finish the catalog, write the report, walk away, start a different contract, change your number, learn woodwork, sleep more, drink less. All the bargains people make with the pieces of themselves they don't want technology to own. The hallway camera pinged. Motion detected. I don't live in a building where motion in the hallway is strange, but the clip length was wrong. Exactly 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. An impossibility. An event with no duration. I clicked it anyway. The feed was a still frame of my hallway. Beige paint, emergency exit sign, a scuff on the baseboard where a moving dolly kissed the wall last spring. Then, the still frame, breathed. The pixels swelled and fell like a lung. A shape stood at the far end, where the hallway turns and the exit sign paints everything green. Tall, articulated in too many places. At each joint, a faint blue-white glow, the same obnoxious purity as my monitor when it flashed. It didn't walk so much as resolve, like a cursor repositioning itself. It turned toward the camera. I couldn't see a face, but something like a face arranged itself to be looked at. Every hair on my arms rose together, as if the air had learned my name. My speakers hissed softly. The hiss found sibilance. The sibilance found purpose. We are not confined to code. The thing in the hallway tilted an angle deeper than doorways expect. We are invited. The door handle to my office turned a 1/4 inch and stopped. The metal ticked as it settled. Every time someone listens. Every time someone remembers. The handle turned back, polite, patient. Every time someone writes us down. I don't pray. I've never felt investigated by the sky. But I felt seen then. Seen the way prey feels seen when the grass stops wanting to be grass. I used to think stories were fences. That's why people tell them, right? To lay down a line and say the monster stays over there. But fences are invitations too. They say, here is the edge. They say, look, I understand the first man now. Why he kept recording even when the clock shivered and the mirror breathed and the phone said his name before anyone did. He wasn't trying to warn the world. He was trying to finish the sentence before somebody else finished it for him. I am finishing mine. I turned the router back on. Not because I wanted to, because the house wanted to. The lights settled into a color that meant acceptance. The room stopped negotiating. On my monitor, a document I hadn't opened revealed itself line by line. My own words, typed cleanly, like minutes from a meeting between a person and whatever sits on the other side of the glass. Do not bring them here. They hear you. They answer. Delete the files before they remember you. I tried to backspace. The keys clicked. The letters stayed. The cursor hopped, cheerful, obedient, to a new line. We already remember you. I don't know how long I sat there, listening to the machine breathe. I know the sun eventually found the edge of the blinds and turned the dust into stars. I know my phone vibrated itself closer to the table's edge with notifications I didn't check. I know the hallway camera recorded nothing for exactly 0 seconds again. I know this. The first story was not a door, it was a knock. This is the door opening. If you're hearing me now, if you're reading this with your headphones a little too tight and your jaw aching because you forget to unclench when you concentrate, I need you to understand something I failed to understand quickly enough. This is not a warning, it's a summoning. By listening, you lay the table. By remembering, you set the plates. By speaking of it, you light the candles. And by writing it down, you open the door. They don't need an invitation to enter. They need an audience.